All right, so let's talk about carbohydrate metabolism. So we're going to talk carbohydrate overview. All right, so carbohydrate metabolism, we're looking at how we get energy from sugar or glucose. So glucose is C6H12O6. So that is glucose. And when we react that with oxygen, we get carbon dioxide plus water. And it's actually 6 waters. We'll react 1 glucose with 6 oxygens, and we get 6 CO2 and 6 waters. And of course we also get ATP. So that's the energy we get out of that. We also are going to give off some heat. Heat. So just like your car engine does this, okay? All right, and it's going to have a waste product and give off heat and then give you, the energy you need to run the car. Same thing in the body, really. So this equation is called a redox equation. So oxidation reduction equation. So what's going to happen is something is going to get oxidized and something is going to get reduced. So in this equation, glucose, I guess I should do that the color they have glucose here. So glucose loses electrons. That means it has been oxidized. The oxygen gains electrons, or an electron, and therefore we say that it has been reduced. So the way to remember the oxidation reduction equation is through this little mnemonic oil rig. So oil rig is oxidation is loss and reduction is gain. And that's how you can remember the oxidation reduction reaction and what is happening. Okay, so in cellular respiration, there are basically three things that are going to occur. Okay? The first one is glycolysis. And this is anaerobic. So no oxygen needed. The second thing is the citric acid cycle, also called the Krebs cycle, but we're going to call it the citric acid cycle. This, of course, requires oxygen, so this is aerobic. And then the last thing that occurs is the electron transport chain. So we're going to go through all of these three processes. Okay, so the glycolysis, or if we're in the cell, and I'm going to draw so in the cell, there's this little machine, or little, whatever you want to call it, called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria just, it looks like kind of like a bacteria floating around the cell. But there's lots of mitochondria, depending on the type of cell that it is. Like muscle cells have a ton of mitochondria. Heart muscle. It's all over the place, because mitochondria is where we have aerobic metabolism, or being able to use oxygen to get energy. So just to kind of orient yourself here, the inside of the mitochondria, the inner part of it, is called the matrix. Okay? This outer layer is called the outer membrane. This layer inside is called the inner membrane. And the space between the inner membrane and the outer membrane is called the intermembrane space. Okay, so these are going to be real important in the functioning of cellular respiration. So this is where cellular respiration basically occurs. So outside of the mitochondria, so in the cytoplasm, that's where we're going to have glycolysis. If we have oxygen, then we enter the mitochondria, and in the mitochondria is where we get the functioning of the citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain. Okay? So within cellular respiration, we need to identify a couple of things. And I'll just leave it like that. Okay. Energy in cellular respiration that we're capturing through glycolysis and the citric acid cycle. The energy is captured in electrons. Those electrons, where we sort of collect all these electrons through these two processes, and then these electrons electrons are carried to the electron transport chain by carriers to be converted or cashed in for ATP or energy. So the electron carriers these are coenzymes. And there's two of them. There is NAD, which is called nicotinamide, adenine, dinucleotide, and it comes from the B vitamin niacin. All right, the other one is called FAD, and this is flavin, adenine, dinucleotide. And it comes from the B vitamin riboflavin. Okay, so these carriers are responsible for accepting high energy electrons. And then they hold on to them and carry them to the electron transport chain. And there they are traded in or cashed in to synthesize ATP. So we have NAD, and basically what's happening is this coenzyme is getting reduced. Okay, it's accepting two high energy electrons plus a proton. And when it does that, it becomes NADH plus its little electrons. Okay? The FAD same thing. It's accepting electrons, so it's being reduced. It's accepting two high energy electrons and two protons. And it turns into FADH2. And there's its two little electrons. So these two things, these two coenzymes, have been reduced. They gained two high energy electrons. And they're going to hold on to those and carry them into through the mitochondria over to the electron transport chain to make ATP. All right, so now we're going to go through the actual steps: the glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, and the electron transport chain. We're going to see how much energy, how much ATP we can make.